Hey guys, welcome back. We are about to dive into Samuel lesson 5, which is Dig Site 5. So we're going to be in First Samuel chapter 7 today, and it's going to go all the way to chapter 8. So let's recap a little bit about what's happened so far. So we learned in the first dig site that Elkanah had two wives. He had Peninnah and he had Hannah. Peninnah already had kids, but Hannah didn't. And so she prayed to the Lord and she was blessed with Samuel. And she left Samuel to stay at the temple to minister to the Lord because the Lord answered her prayer. Then we learn more about the boy Samuel, and we learn one day that the Lord was calling on him, but Samuel didn't recognize the Lord's voice. And then finally, he did recognize the Lord's voice after he listened to the priest Eli's advice to stop and say, "Lord, tell me what you need me to do, and I'll do it." And then we learn as Samuel got older, and we also learned something about Elkanah's sons, or Eli's sons, and how they were just evil, and they did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord punished them by putting them to death. We also learned that the Israelite people started to do they got confused because of Eli's sons and the false teaching that was happening. They got confused and they started to worship false idols. And we also learned a little bit about the Philistines last week and how they sent back the ark of the Lord, and now it's in Kirath Jearim, and that's where we're going to start today. So in First Samuel chapter 7 to chapter 8, verse 22, let's go ahead and get started. We see here the ark remained at Kiriath Jearim for a long time, 20 years in all. Then all the people of Israel turned back to the Lord. Thank goodness. So Samuel, he is an adult now. He is a major prophet. He said to all the Israelites, "If you are returning to the Lord with all of your hearts, then rid yourselves of the foreign gods and the Ashereths and commit yourselves to the Lord. Serve him only, and he will deliver you out of the hand of the Philistines." And then the people of Israel are like, "Who, me?" And this happens to us too today. So the Israelites put away their Baals and Ashereths and served the Lord only. Then Samuel said, "Assemble all Israel at Mizpah, and I will intercede with the Lord for you." And when they had assembled at Mizpah, they drew water and poured it out before the Lord. On that day, they fasted, which means they went without food and drink for the day. There they confessed, "We have sinned against the Lord." Now Samuel was serving as the leader of Israel at Mizpah. When the Philistines heard that Israel had assembled at Mizpah, the rulers of the Philistines came up to attack them. When the Israelites heard of that, they were afraid because of the Philistines. They said to Samuel, "Do not stop crying out to the Lord our God for us, that he may rescue us from the hand of the Philistines." They got scared. Then Samuel took a suckling lamb and sacrificed it as a whole burnt offering to the Lord. He cried out to the Lord on Israel's behalf, and the Lord answered him. While Samuel was sacrificing the burnt offering, the Philistines drew near to engage Israel in battle. They were ready to fight. But that day the Lord thundered with a loud thunder against the Philistines and threw them into such a panic they were routed before the Israelites. The men of Israel rushed out of Mizpah and pursued the Philistines, slaughtering them along the way to a point below Beth-kar. Then Samuel took a stone and he set it up between Mizpah and Shen. He named it Ebenezer, saying, "Thus far the Lord has helped us." So the Philistines were subdued and they stopped invading Israel's territory. Throughout Samuel's lifetime, the hand of the Lord was against the Philistines. The towns from Ekron to Gath that the Philistines had captured from Israel were restored to Israel, and Israel delivered the neighboring territory from the hands of the Philistines. And there was peace between Israel and the Amorites. This Samuel continued as Israel's leader all the days of his life. From year to year, he went on a circuit from Bethel to Gilgal to Mizpah, judging Israel in all those places. But he always went back to Ramah, where his home was. And that's where he also held court for Israel. And he built an altar to the Lord there. When Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as Israel's leaders. The name of his firstborn son was Joel, and the name of his second son was Abijah. I think I said that right. And they served at Beersheba. But his sons did not follow Samuel's ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain, and they accepted bribes and perverted justice, which means they judged unfairly. So all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah. They said to him, "You are old, and your sons do not follow your ways. Now appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nations have." But when they said, "Give us a king to lead us," this displeased Samuel. So he prayed to the Lord. And the Lord told him, "Listen to all that the people are saying to you. It is not you they have rejected, but they have rejected me, God, as their king, as they have done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt until this day, forsaking me and serving other gods. So they are doing to you. Now listen to them, but warn them solemnly and let them know what the king who will reign over them will claim as his rights." So Samuel told all the words of the Lord to the people who were asking him for a king. He listened to the Lord. He said, "This is what the king who will reign over you will claim as his rights. He will take your sons, and he will make them serve with his chariots and horses, and they will run in front of chariots. Some he will assign to be commanders of thousands and commanders of 50s, and others to plow his ground and reap his harvest, and still others to make weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers. He will take the best of your fields and vineyards and olive groves and give them to his attendants. He will take a tenth of your grain and of your vintage and give it to his officials and attendants. Your male and female servants and the best of your cattle and donkeys he will take for his own use. He will take a tenth of your flocks, and you yourselves will become his slaves. When that day comes, you will cry out for relief from the king you have chosen, but the Lord will not answer you in that day." But, of course, the people refused to listen to Samuel. "No," they said, "we want a king over us. Then we will be like all the other nations, with a king to lead us and to go out before us and to fight our battles." When Samuel heard all that the people had said, he repeated it before the Lord. And the Lord answered, "Listen to them, give them a king." Then Samuel said to the Israelites, "Everyone go back to your own town." So the Lord answered their prayer, or he answered their plea to give them what they wanted. But I think we're going to find out here in the next couple of dig sites that it may not necessarily be what they wanted. All right, so that concludes our lesson for today, our story for today. Here is our memory verse for today. It's found in the Bible in 1 Chronicles chapter 16, verses 11 through 12. This is kind of a long one. It says, "Look to the Lord and his strength. Seek his face always. Remember the wonders he has done his miracles, and the judgments he pronounced. Let's say that again. 1 Chronicles 16, verses 11 through 12. Look to the Lord in his strength. Seek his face always. Remember the wonders he has done, his miracles, and the judgments he pronounced. Well, guys, that was an interesting story where Israel cried out to the Lord and he gave them what they wanted, but he warned them, just like with us, if we beg him, he will give us what we want, but it may not be what we really need in the long run. That's the most important thing to remember from this story. Well, have fun practicing your quizzing questions, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.